Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier, and the last podcast of the year. Hurrah! I can hear you all screaming. At last, we've got shot of it. No, I'm only joking. Well, thank you actually for coming and listening. I'm deeply grateful because I know I can sort of go off on a tangent and things can go in various directions. But let me start with Lord Alfred Tennyson again. In memoriam, ring out wild bells. Ring out wild bells to the wild sky, the flying cloud, the frosty light. The year is dying in the night. Ring out wild bells and let him die. Ring out the old, ring in the new. Ring happy bells across the snow. The year is going, let him go. Ring out the false, ring in the true. Ring out the grief that saps the mind, for those that hear we see no more. Ring out the feud of rich and poor, ring in redress to all mankind. Ring out a slowly dying cause and ancient forms of party strife. Ring in the nobler modes of life, with sweeter manners and purer laws. I wish. But it is, isn't it? A very powerful poem, I think. Macro thoughts. I wrote a piece which was kind of butchered by the Star, but it's a pretty long piece. What to expect in 2017 and what happened in 2016. I'll just start and give you a few bits and bobs. I said this interregnum between Christmas and New Year is an interesting one in Nairobi. And the opening stanza of the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot came to mind. Let us go, then you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats, to lead you to an overwhelming question. Do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make your visit. I said, let's take an opportunity to take a look at the markets in 2016. I said, it's been a dramatic year in the markets with big headline political events. Wrong-footing markets. The chances of Brexit and the election of President Trump were considered the equivalent of three-legged ponies at the Epsom Derby by bookmakers. As we can see, the new zeitgeist spread like wildfire. And the world at the end of 2016 looks nothing like it did at the beginning of 2016. Vladimir Putin looks like the biggest geopolitical winner, and this has been reflected in the markets. The Russian ruble has returned 21% versus the dollar and is the top performing currency versus the dollar in 2016. However, in fact, the best performing currency was the cryptocurrency Bitcoin, which is up 120% in 2016. And I was just talking about expecting the Naira to drop further. I'm bullish about the pound. But take a look at the article talking about the commodity index as well. And I was just talking about the need to be structurally long in the long term, the agricultural markets. Then I came to Kenya, Safaricom, 700% return during Bob Collimore's tenure, top percentile in the world. The Kenya Airways pop high on Michael Joseph. Kenal Kogel was a standout. But I was saying that the banking stocks weighed real heavy on the indices, and only one banking stock, Standard Chartered, registered a positive return in 2016, up around 20% on a total return basis. I said the interest rate cap action is forcing a fundamental reconfiguring of the banking sector. Investors are nervous that it could turn Darwinian. The stampede into government of Kenya bonds is now easing, and whilst valuations look close to rock bottom, we do have an election year in front of us. And I was suggesting some trades: long Bitcoin, short gold on the spread, long sterling versus the shilling, long Safaricom, long the dollar index, and short the Naira. And here's to wishing you a profitable 2017. Here's a Bitcoin chart, top performing currency, notwithstanding it's a cryptocurrency, up 120%. And I think it's probably going to go higher. World equity indices, take a look at this. The Bovespa, top of the heap, up over 61%. This morning, in the early hours of what must have been very thin trading, fat finger or algo trades went crazy. The euro spiked 1.6% in minutes as big orders surprised market higher. We're now at 105.23. And we've seen plenty of those moves this year, haven't we, really? Home thoughts, I went back to Thomas Pynchon. I dream that I have found us both again. With spring so many strangers' lives away, and we so free out walking by the sea. With someone else's paper words to say, they took us at the gates of green return, too lost by then to stop, and asked them why do children meet again? Does any trace remain along the superhighways of July? This is fantastic. You must listen to this. I found this from Wired. It's an audio. Listen to the 360-degree spatial sounds of Africa's wildlife in the dead of the night. It's unbelievable. I kept listening to it this morning. It's so powerful. The fact that it's an audio makes it even more powerful. It's so wonderfully curated. Do listen to it. At one point, you hear a sound. Attenborough says this, the most chilling sound of all, the crunching of bones. Oof. And actually once, many visits ago to the Naira, we were in this sort of remote place, no one else was there, and suddenly the driver said, look, and there was a lion there, and there was a warthog 30 meters away. He switched the car off, and within minutes, a blink of an eye, the lion had caught that warthog. And the next thing we heard was this crunching of the bones. I can never forget it. And actually, it's captured in that little audio. The magnificence of the leopard is key. I just happen to have the very best equipment and to be in the right place at the right time. An extraordinary black leopard from David Yarrow. And then on Marvel's Black Panther, astonishingly reimagined by Ta-Nehisi Coates, LA Review of Books. A little video link I took of the elephants in the Maasai Mara a few years ago. Do take a look. And my favourite photograph, I think, a long shot of Night Road arrowing forlorn into immensities and flat of impossible to believe America in New Mexico under the prisoner's moon. Old Pajetta, southern white rhino grazing on the old Pajetta plains at sunset. The photograph is by Benjamin Soto. Martha Plimpton, Carrie watching her mother from the wings. Such a powerful photograph, I thought. Couple more Thomas Pynchon quotes, and what I like about Pynchon is you kind of understand it intuitively, but you've really got to think about it. Temporal bandwidth is the width of your present, your now. It is the familiar. T considered as a dependent variable. The more you dwell in the past and in the future, the thicker your bandwidth, the more solid your persona. But in the narrower your sense of now, the more tenuous you are. What goes around may come around, but it never ends up exactly in the same place. You ever notice? Like a record on a turntable, all it takes is one groove's difference, and the universe can be into a whole nother song. Thomas Pynchon. Rodrigo Duterte says he once threw a suspect from a helicopter. He hurled a Chinese man suspected of rape and murder out of a helicopter. If you are corrupt, I will fetch you using a helicopter to Manila, and I will throw you out. I've done this before, why would I not do it again? Said during a speech to victims of a typhoon on Tuesday. This too is a whole other normal. Duterte and his helicopters made me think of the ride of the Valkyries from Apocalypse Now. That link is on Rich Wrap-Ups. Pretty powerful stuff as well. Just over a year ago, Turkey shot down a Russian plane. Today, Russian jets are supporting their Operation Euphrates Shield in Syria, which is a fact. Russia, according to Business Week, is entangled in the Middle East with deadly results. This was the photograph of the assassin in Ankara, and that made me think of the assassination of Anwar Sadat in 1981. photograph of that. The Russian embassy said Putin has announced an agreement between governmental forces and armed opposition in Syria. Finally achieved ceasefire, and the political process are key points. And then of course they've convened this meeting, totally ignoring the US and the EU. So some very interesting developments there. Plus you've got Erdogan's pivot, but Erdogan is ambiguous. We don't know exactly what he's doing. But he did go very quiet in Aleppo and removed his assets. And I think he's realized he's got to sort of sue for peace, because otherwise they're all going to be cauterized. But let's keep an eye on things, because it's definitely fluid. US strikes back at Russia over interference with the 2016 election. Retaliated against Russia for cyber attacks aimed at interfering with the 2016 presidential election. Imposing sanctions on top Russian intelligence officials and agencies, expelling 35 Russian operatives from the US, and releasing technical evidence on the hacking. All Americans should be alarmed by Russia's actions, Obama said. These data theft and disclosure activities could only have been directed by the highest levels of the Russian government. Trump once said the hacking could have been the work of somebody sitting in a bed someplace, and told reporters Wednesday that we ought to get on with our lives instead of rehashing the cyber attack. I think it's very tongue-in-cheek. I think he knows exactly what's happened. And he's now got to sort of find a way of kind of acknowledging it, but not taking it above a certain threshold. We are starting from the fact that these decisions were taken by President Obama, and Trump will be the head of state in 3 weeks. That's Dmitry Peskov. Of course, we'll take this factor into account. White House sanctions Russia over election hacking. Russia's cyber activities were intended to influence the election, erode faith in US democratic institutions, sow doubt about the integrity of our electoral process, and undermine confidence in the institutions of the US government. These actions are unacceptable and will not be tolerated. Now, as you know, because I've told you severally, on the 5th of December I wrote, I think Putin ran a seriously 21st century, predominantly digital program of interference which amplified the Donald Trump presidency. Trump was an ideal candidate for that kind of support. He is a linguistic warfare specialist. Look at the names he gave his opponents: Crooked Hillary, Lying Ted, Little Marco, Low Energy Jeb. These were devastating and terminal. Now, of course, the first thing Putin has to create is plausible deniability. Some folks here at home are very clumsy, and you can see them, but Putin has created plausible deniability. He's a conductor of an enormous orchestra spread all over all parts of the world. And he knows how to navigate the system in a non-linear manner. And it's a very linear system. And his skill at navigating in a non-linear manner means you can't pin it on him. From feeding the hothouse conspiracy online, a constant state of destabilized perception, timely and judicious doses of WikiLeaks leaks, which drained Hillary's bona fides and her turnout and motivated Trump's. What we have witnessed is something remarkable and noteworthy. Putin has proven himself an information master, and his adversaries are his information victims. How Trump made Russia's hacking more effective, this is David Frum. The information is delegitimizing. The president-elect of the US reportedly owes his office in considerable part to illegal clandestine activities in his favor conducted by a hostile foreign spy service. It's hard to imagine a crisis of presidential legitimacy more extreme than that, which is a fact, and that takes me back to my Don DeLillo, which I still love. The specialist is monitoring data on his mission console when a voice breaks in, a voice that carried with it a strange and unspecifiable poignancy. We have a deviant tomahawk. We have gross oscillation here. There's some interference. And of course, that is Vladimir. WikiLeaks, and this goes back to the point about judicious and timely doses of WikiLeaks leaks. WikiLeaks themselves, new data shows that WikiLeaks publications were the most referenced topic on Twitter during the US election. However, these sanctions, which the US has hit Russia with, is not affecting the markets. The markets don't mind. The ruble is up 21% and sharply lower Russian default risk. So there you see an interesting correlation between geopolitical advantage and economic advantage. Russian embassy was very ruthless. President Obama expels 35 diplomats in Cold War deja vu, as everybody, including his people, will be glad to see the last of this hapless administration. Russia rules out explosion as the cause of Tu-154 crash. And that must be a fellow finding the black box. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. Ban Ki-moon, I think, is on his way to leadership in South Korea. The year in covers. Check out New African 2016 magazine covers. Pretty interesting. Number one in our 10 things in 2017, political turmoil in Africa's two largest economies. I like the cartoon. I think it's very accurate. Take a look at this chart of gilt yields. I think, although we've had some small recovery, I think we're going to see another big sell-off next year. Currency markets, well, after all those shenanigans, which saw the euro, I think, get as high as 106.50. We're now at 105.20. Dollar index 102.31. Japanese yen 117.05. Swissy 102.01. The pound 122.89. The Aussie is at 0.7219. India rupee 67.945. South Korean won 1205.94. The Rial, third best performing currency worldwide in 2016 after the ruble and Bitcoin, 325.46. Egyptian pound 18.134. And the rand firmer still, 13.6276. Dollar index, I'll put up a 1-year chart. I think that's going higher. 110 remains my target next year. This is from David Inglis. You can see that sharp spike in the euro before it fell back down again. It was a 160 pip pop. But we see several of those this year, these very big moves. David said looks to be algo driven amid thin liquidity is probably right. Commodity markets, look at this from Bloomberg TV, which is the commodities year-to-date performance. Commodity market as an asset class, the Bloomberg Commodity Index snapped a 5-year losing run thanks to oil and metals. Take a look, up marginally, 11-something%. The S&P Goldman Sachs Commodity Index via Reuters gives you an idea of all the winners and the losers. Very interesting developments. Gold, last trading at 11.58, might squeeze a little bit higher, but it's a big sell, I think. What a spectacular 2016 price range. WTI oil is traded as low as $26.05 a barrel and as high as 54 cents and 51 cents a barrel. That's heavy blast. On Wednesday, we had the highest close in almost 18 months. But look at this. This is US shale production. That will really start to grow as the price goes higher. Michel Temer's Brazil's Bovespa is the top performing equity index worldwide. Brazilian real is the second best performing currency worldwide. Frontier market returns in 2016. Thank you, Reuters. Take a look at this. Crackdown on protests threatens Ethiopia's economic boom. This is the FT. Foreign investors, notably from China, have this year plowed $2.5 billion into an economy that has experienced double-digit annual growth over most of the past decade. Behind the facade, cracks are appearing in the model that helped Ethiopia become one of Africa's star economic performers. The consequence for the authoritarian government, which derives much of its legitimacy since taking power 25 years ago from delivering development in the absence of many basic freedoms, is unprecedented uncertainty, analysts say. Ethiopia is in the third month of a state of emergency and post-call demonstrations. Foreign-owned businesses, particularly textiles and flower farming, have been targeted in attacks that have caused tens of millions of dollars of damage. By sacrificing rule of law and predictability to achieve short-term stability, the Ethiopian government has damaged its reputation by reinforcing the perception that it is more authoritarian than democratic. That's a Western diplomat. For visitors to Addis Ababa, the most noticeable impact of the crackdown is the complete lack of mobile internet, severe disruption to online services, Deloitte has estimated the shutdown is costing the economy $500,000 a day. Fewer foreign tourists, practically no Western business travellers. The Chinese are still coming through. David Cowan of Citi Bank believes the reality is worse and questions an IMF prediction that FDI will be 4.45 billion 2016-2017. I don't see where the increase in FDI is coming from. I don't see it from the multinationals, many of which are in a consolidating mode. And it's a very difficult situation. The economic model is probably the best one in Africa in the sense that it is designed to create as many jobs as possible, and it has done successfully. But I think the descent has metastasized to the point that the regime has seen fit to impose 6 months of emergencies, telling us that we're in a really stressful situation. And the regime has got to change tack and effect a course correction. And history shows us that this course correction is one of the most difficult things to pull off. And so far, it's just been more repression, and I don't think it's going to work. South African all share back to scratch for the year as of this morning. Dollar versus rand, that's been firming up the rand a little bit. When you look at this chart, the rand looks as if it's in a more of a bullish trend. Egyptian pound, huge bounce, 18.1305. Remember, we're at 1950 a few days ago. Nigeria's central bank sold about $1 billion on the forward market last week to clear a backlog of dollar obligations in selected sectors, traders said on Thursday. Its largest special auction since the currency peg was removed in June. As I've been saying for ad infinitum, the Naira remains a fundamental and inescapable paradox, which is like a dagger pointed at the heart of the Nigerian president. He's got to get with the program and devalue it. Nigerian all-share down 6.49% this year. The Ghana Stock Exchange down 16.67% this year. Sanlam Kenya has issued a profits warning, a full-year profits warning. They're talking about mark-to-market fair value losses, both for bonds and equities, negative persistency experienced in the life book, lower income from property sales, and an increase in expenses. Sanlam has fallen 53.75% the year through 2016. Kenya's inflation rate fell to 6.35% year-on-year in December from 6.68% year-on-year in November. However, somebody I follow, Grant Brooke, who runs a banana business, it seems, was talking about the risk of food inflation spiking next year. He's got a very thought-out line of thinking there, and that would be a very big curved ball for the stock market. Investor valuations signal 8 NSE companies that are ripe takeover targets. These are companies that are trading at a discount to the net asset value. Sasini, WPP, Scan Group, KCB, DTB, Stanbic, Kenya Power, Kengen, and Centum are the ones that are trading on various discounts. Kenya Shilling 102.50. Nairobi all share down 9.88% on the last trading day of the year. And the NSE 20 is down 21.88% on the last trading day of the year. Once again, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the support, and wishing you a fantastic 2016-2017 celebration and a great year in 2017. And I thoroughly appreciate you.